Hello, I'm now going to record Masechta Shabbos Daf Nun. We're starting from Daf Mem Tesam Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. In the Mishnah it said that if you're matmin, if you insulate a pot using gizei tzemer, using shearings of wool, you can, because shearings of wool are not meisiv hevel, they're only mekayim hevel, but ve'im metaltalin, but they're muktzah. So Amar Rava says, Lo shanu, we did not learn that they're muktzah, ella shaloi taman behem, only if you didn't do hatmana. Avol taman behem, but once you use them for insulation, metaltal oisam, they're no longer muktzah. That's what Rava said. Eisvei ahumir rabbanan bar Yomei. There was a Talmud who came that day into yeshiva. So he heard that Rava said the moment you're matman, it's no longer muktzah. So he asked L'Rava to Rava, in our Mishnah it says, Tainin begizei tzemer, you can insulate using wool, ve'ein metaltal and oisam, and you're not allowed to handle it, so it's muktzah. Keitzadawai, so the Mishnah says, what should you do? Noitel asakisui. If you can touch the handle of the top of the pot, you take by the handle, and ve'ein noifleis, you lift the handle and the wool falls off. But Rava just said that the moment you insulate, it's no longer muktzah. So why in the Mishnah is it muktzah if you used it for insulation? The Gemara explains, Ela I itmer hachi itmer. What Rava said was, Amar Rava lo shanu ela shala yichdan lahatmana. If you never dedicated it permanently for atmana, then it remains muktzah. So if you only used it one time, so then it's still muktzah. And like the Mishnah says, you have to be metaltalit minatzad, using something indirect. But if you ever took that wool and dedicated it for insulating purposes, you're allowed to be metaltalit. Because wool normally is meant to be spun into thread, it's meant for other things. But if you permanently dedicated this wool for insulation, it's okay. Itmar Nami, it was said exactly, Ki Asa Ravin Amar Rab Yaakov Amar Rab Asi Ben Shol Amar Rebbe, Loishanu, the Mishnah did not teach us that it's muktzah, Ela Shala Yichdan La'atmana, only if you never dedicated it for insulation. Aba Yichdan La'atmana Metaltal and Oisan. But if you dedicated it for insulation, if you dedicated it for insulation, then you're allowed to handle it and it's no longer muktzah. Ravina says that really, even if you used it one time for insulation, it's already not muktzah. Then why in the Mishnah did it say that it is muktzah? Bishal heptek shanu. Because there we're speaking about special wool which came out of a commercial storage place. So since it was taken from a commercial storage place, it probably was designated for commercial purposes, and then it only loses its muktzah if it's dedicated. But if it didn't come from a special commercially dedicated storage place, then using it once would be good enough and would take the muktzah off. Tanya Namiyochi, we learned in a brisa also, Gizei tzemer shel heptik, ein metaltal and oisam. If you have shearings of wool that are kept in a storage place for commercial purposes, they're muktzah. In his skin and balabayis lishtamish bem, and only if you dedicated it to permanently use it for insulation, then metaltal and oisam, then it's no longer muktzah. So the difference between the two views in the Gemara is according to the first view, if you use it once, it's still muktzah. If you dedicate it, it's no longer muktzah. And according to Ravina, even if you use it once, it's no longer muktzah, unless it's special wool that had been dedicated in a storage place for commercial purposes. Then it's going to be muktzah. Tanu Rabba Bar Bachana Kamed Rav. Rabba Bar Bachana taught a brayz in the name of Rav. Chariyai Shaldekel, branches of a palm tree, Shagadron La'etzim, that were cut to be used for firewood, which are muktzah. V'nimlach aleim liyeshiva, and now you decide that you want to use these branches to put them together and use them as a bench. Tzarich lekasher. The Tanakama holds you have to do something to those branches, like tying them together, and by tying them together, you make it into a bench. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Aimer Eino Tzarich lekasher. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you don't have to actually tie them together. If you just had in mind, but formally you had in mind that you're going to be using this as branches to sit on, like a bench, then it's good enough. Hu Tani la Rabba Bar Bachana taught the Braysa, Vu Amar la, and he explained and he said, Halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel, that formal intention is good enough, even though no act was done to unite the branches. Itmir, it was said, Rav Amar Kaisher, Rav says that in order to make the branches non-muktzah, you need to tie them together as a bench. Shmuel Amar Chayshiv, Shmuel says you just have to formally think about them. Ravasi Amar Yoshev, Ravasi says even if you sat down on it once on a Friday, casually, that already takes the muktzah off. Aval pi shelo kisher, even though you never tied them together to be used as a bench. The aval pi shelo kisher, even though you never formally had in mind to use it as a bench, but just casually using it once as a bench is good enough. So we have three views, A, B, and C. A, you have to actually do a pa'ula, you have to do an act of tying them together. B, you need to formally think about it. You don't have to actually do an act of changing it, but you have to actually think that this will be used for a bench. And C, you don't either have to do anything, you don't have to think, as long as you ever used it once for a bench is good enough. Zukmar Bishlama, it's well understood that Rav Hudamar Ketanakama. Rav says like the Tanakama that you have to tie it together to take off the muktzah. So Shmuel Nami Hudamar Reb Shimon Gamliel. And Shmuel is like Reb Shimon Gamliel, you don't have to tie them together, you just have to decide that you want to think about it, use it as a bench. El Ravasi Damar Kaman. But Ravasi, who said that just casually using it once as a bench is good enough, who does he hold like? The Gemara says, I have two brises that will help Ravasi. Huda Amar Ki Haitana. He says like a certain Tana. The Tanya we learned in a brisa, Yoitzin b'pakairin u'b'tzipa. If you have some combed flax or some combed wool that you put on a wound in order to protect the wound. So if it really protects the wound, then it becomes like a malbish, like a garment which protects your body. It's neither muktzah nor is it called carrying in the street. So the brisa says, Bizman shetziva'an b'shemen, or ukrochan b'meshicha, when you coated this flax or wool with oil, or you tied it down with a band, then you show that you're really using it as a bandage and it's not going to rub against the wound, then it's fine. But but if you never coated it with oil, or you never tied it down with a band, you're not allowed to carry it out into the street. Because then it's just a bunch of flax or a bunch of wool that's muktzah. So on one hand it's muktzah, and on the other hand, you're also carrying from your home into the street. But, says the Brisa, if you wore it out on Friday, even for a short amount of time, even though you never coated it with oil or you never tied it down with a band, you're allowed to wear it. So you see, the casual wearing it one time on Friday now has dedicated it to be used as a bandage, and therefore, even though you did no other pu'ula in it, you did no other act, it's now has lost its identity as muktzah, as wool or flax, which is going to be used for a commercial purpose, and it's neither muktzah nor yoiver when you carry it out. So what do we see? That just casually using it for a permitted purpose, Erev Shabbos, changes its identity. Rav Ashi says, Afanana mitinina. I have another Mishnah that will support Ravasi, that you don't have to do an actual pu'ula in the object, like tying the branches together. You don't have to have a formal thought, but just a casual act. Erev Shabbos will take the muktzah off it. If you have akash ashal gavi amita, you have straw on a bed, but the straw is straw. Straw is usually meant either to use as fuel for fire or for construction. Lo yananu biyodai, it's muktzah. You're not allowed to move it with your hand on Shabbos. Avol menanoi begufay. But if you put your body down on it and it moves the straw, that you're allowed to, because it's tiltul kilachar yad. It's just moving it indirectly. You're moving it, you're using your body, and since it's for the purpose of your body, so tiltul minatzad for something which is not muktzah, like your body is okay. Avalim hoya machal behema. If this straw had already been dedicated to use as animal food, then it's not muktzah. Or if you had put a pillow on the straw or a sheet over the straw on Friday, so then once you already did that casual act, it takes the muktzah off the straw and no longer makes it considered for construction or for fuel, and therefore menana biyada, you can even move it with your hand. So shma mina, that just putting a sheet or pillow on the straw takes off its muktzah, and the same way that just wearing that straw, that the flax or wool on your body takes off the muktzah and makes it considered a bandage. And the same way Rav Asi said that just sitting down on these branches of the palm tree, Erev Shabbos, takes off the muktzah, and you don't have to do like the Tanakama, to tie them together, nor like Rav Shimon Gamliel, have a formal thought. Uman Tana de Poligale de Rav Shimon Gamliel, who's the Tana who argues on Rav Shimon Gamliel, who says it takes an act of tying them together in order to take the muktzah of the branches? It's Rav Chanina ben Akiva. It's Rav Chanina ben Akiva. To Chiyasa Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz to Bavel, Amar Ziri, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Pamachas, one time, Holach Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva l'mokan echad. Rav Chanina ben Akiva came to a certain place, Umotza Chariya shel dekel shegedorim l'shem eitzim. And he found some branches of a palm tree that had been cut to use as fuel. Amar lam l'talmidov, so Rav Chanina ben Akiva told the Talmidim, Tzu v'chishvu, have in mind that we're going to use this tomorrow as a bench, that tomorrow on Shabbos we should be able to sit on it. So in other words, he said, like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, that formal thought is enough to take the muktzah off. But Zeiri adds, V'lo yadana ibeis hamishtahava, ibeis ha'aval. On Friday, when Reb Chanina ben Akiva told the Talmidim to do this, it's either they were involved in a wedding or they were involved in Nicham Avelim, and therefore they had no time to tie it together. So therefore he allowed them just to have a formal thought in the place of doing a act. Midik Amar, since Zeiri said, Ibeis HaMishtahava, Ibeis HaAval, since he said, I'm not sure if it was a chasana or it was a Beis HaAval, it sounds like Dafke Beis HaAval or Beis HaMishtah. Because it was a Beis HaAval or Beis HaMishtah, therefore he was mekel and allowed them to change its status as muktzah to non-muktzah just by formal thought. Aval hocha, but in a regular case, it's kosher in like kosher loy. Only if you tied them together, you did an act in the branches in order to turn it into a bench, then it's mutter, and if not, not. So these are the three shittas. The Tanakama, Allah Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva holds that in order to take a muktzah item, to make it non-muktzah, you have to actually effect the change in it, like tying the branches together. Unless it's a Beis HaAval or Beis HaMishtah, there's no time. According to Rav Shimon Gamliel, a formal thought is enough, and according to Rav Asi, based on two other brises, you don't even need a formal thought. You just need to have treated it before Shabbos as a non-muktzah item, and that's good enough. For instance, if you have strands of wool or strands of flax that you went out with it on Friday as a bandage, even though you didn't coat it with oil, you didn't tie it down, is good enough, and that makes it into a bandage. It's not muktzah, and you're not carrying out. Or if you have straw that was lying there and it was intended for construction or for fuel, and you just cover it with a sheet or a pillow, that casual act is good enough, even though you didn't actually make any changes in the straw. Amar Rav Yehuda says, Machnis Adam loikot posei afar, v'oisa b'kol tzarchai. A person can take a box of earth, bring it into the house, and then on Shabbos he can use the earth either to cover some soil or to cover saliva. He can use it. He has made it unmuktzah just by bringing the box in. Amru Rabbanan Kamei de Rav Papa. So the Rabbanan said to Rav Papa, come on, according to who is this view? It's Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. It must be Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, because what he did was he had in mind to use this afar on Shabbos for permitted purposes. Because the Rabbanan Amri bin and Masa. But according to the Rabban, you'd have to do something. And bringing it in is not called doing something. Because doing something means when you took the branches and tied them together and made them into a bench. But just moving it in, he might have just as well just relocated it, but I don't know yet that he dedicated it. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. Let's go back a bit. Dorish Marzutra Mishmeder Marzutra Rabba. Marzutra made a drush on the name Marzutra Rabba, Vushi Yichud like Karen Zovius. That's only if the box of earth that he brought in, he put it into a corner. That's important. Because if he simply brought in a box of earth and dumped it in the middle of the floor where they had earthen floors, it could just be that he added some more earth to the floor. And therefore he's mavatla to the floor, and then it would still be muktzah. He didn't dedicate it for use on Shabbos, but he just brought some more in the center of the floor. As people will walk on it, it'll just raise the floor level a little bit. But if you put it into a corner, that's a sign that he intends to use it on Shabbos. So again, Amar Rabbana Kamei Rav Papa. So the Rabbana said if all he did was bring it in, who does he hold like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel? Because the Rabbanan Amri bin Mas, according to the Rabbanan, you had to do something with it. Like with the wood, you had to tie it together to turn it into a bench. And here he hasn't really done anything with it. He just moved it from place to place. Amar Lu Rav Papa, so Rav Papa responded, Afilu Temer Rabbanan. Even according to the Rabbanan, who require a physical act, here it's enough to bring it in. Why? Because Adkan lekami Rabbanan debinan masa alamidi debaravida b'masa. When did the Rabbanan say you need an act if it was branches, and there's something that can be done with the branches by tying them together? But here there's nothing you can do with the earth. What should he do? Bless it. So therefore he brought it in and he put it in a corner, and that has to be good enough because there's no other masa that could be done. When did the Rabbanan require a masa to turn branches of firewood into a bench? Only when there's a masa that can be done, like tying them together, which will make it more utile as a bench. But if there's no masa that can be done, this is considered good enough aliba de Rabbanan. So this idea that as long as there's nothing else that can be done, then simple machshava would be good enough. Maybe it's a machlokes tanoim. Bakol chofen es hakelim. You're allowed to polish a keli on Shabbos, chutz mikli kesef begartikoin. You're not allowed to polish silver with something called gartikoin because it's rough. Because this gartikoin is rough, as you're polishing the silver, you're going to be smoothing the silver, and that's mamachek. So polishing is not a problem, but if you're also going to affect the metal by smoothing it, that's an iser deraisa. So therefore, ha neter v'chol, but to use nitrate or sand is mutter, because the nitrate or sand is merely going to polish the silver, but it's not going to smooth the actual metal. So that's Braisa A that says that nitrate and sand is mutter. On the other hand, Votanya, there's another Braita that says neter v'chol is aser, that says nitrate and sand is aser. So Braisa B says it's aser. My love, would you not say, what's the dispute? B'hokamiflagi, the marsavar bin and masa. The second brisa that says that the nitrate and the sand is aser holds because it's muktzah. That's the problem. And the fact that you brought it into the house in order to polish your silver on Shabbos doesn't help, because just bringing it in is not called a masa, and therefore it's aser. Umar sover, but the first brisa held that since there's nothing I can do with the nitrate and sand but to bring it in, so loy bin and masa, you don't need any other act. Just the fact that I intended to use it on Shabbos to polish the silver is good enough. So we have a dispute here. Since it's not branches of a palm tree that you can tie together, the only thing I can do with this nitrate and sand is to bring it in. The first brisa says it's good enough, and it's not muktzah, and therefore you can use it. And the second brisa says, too bad, it's still muktzah, and you can't use it. The Gemara says, like, no. The Kuli Alma, both brises, A and B, would hold loy bin and masa. You don't have to do anything to the nitrate and sand to make it non-muktzah. Just bringing it into the house makes it non-muktzah, like Rav Papa said. Then why is there a dispute between Brisa A that allows you to polish silver with it and Brisa B that doesn't allow? Because like Asha, ha Rab Yehuda or Rab Shimon. Maybe it's a dispute between Rab Yehuda and Rab Shimon if Davar Shem is Chavan is Aser or Mutter. Ha Rab Yehuda Damer Davar Shem is Chavan is Aser. Brisa B goes according to Rabbi Yehuda that says Davar Shem is Chavan is Aser. So therefore it's possible that even the sand or nitrate might smooth the silver. There's a possibility. And since there's a possibility, Rabbi Yehuda prohibits it, even though it's not intended. And Vaha, the first brisa that allows you to use the chayil v'neter, the sand and the nitrate, holds is like Reb Shimon. The Amar Davar Shem is Chavan is mutter. If you do something unintentionally, it's mutter. So if your intention is to polish, but unintentionally might end up smoothing the silver, the first brisa Reb Shimon says it's allowed. The second brisa Reb Yehuda says it's aser. The Gemara asks, "B'mayu kimta lahadishari." How did you explain brisa A, which allowed you to polish the silver with chayil and neser? Reb Shimon like Reb Shimon. But Ema Seifa, listen carefully to the end of brisa A that allows you to use chayil and neser to polish silver. But on Shabbos, you're not allowed to rub it in your hair. Why? Because the hair is going to come out and you're going to be over on Shabbos. But wait, Reb Shimon, according to Reb Shimon, rubbing your hair with sand or natra, mishra kashari is mutter. How? Because the Tanan, there's a Mishnah regarding a Nazir. That a Nazir is chayfeif umefasfeis. Reb Shimon holds that a Nazir is allowed to rub. A Nazir is not allowed to remove hair from his head, but he's allowed to rub his hair with chayil or neser, because Reb Shimon has a davar shem is chaven, and the hair is not going to come out, and if it does, it's not intentional. Umefasfeis, you're allowed to move your fingers through your hair also, because I don't think the Nazir's hair is going to come out. Avaloi sayrik, but you're not allowed to use a comb that has close teeth, because then it's psikresh, it's inevitable that the hair will come out. So one more time. You said that Brisa A that allows you to use neter v'choil for polishing silver goes according to Reb Shimon. The Dover Shem is Chavan is Osir. But in the same Brisa it says that you're not allowed to rub it through your hair because the hair is going to come out. Yet by a Nazir, the very same Reb Shimon holds that we're not afraid of choil and neser to make hair come out. Zok the Gemara Ella Hava Rab Yehudi. So let's forget about it. So Brisa A and Brisa B both go according to Rab Yehuda. So if both go according to Rab Yehuda, why does Brisa A allow you to polish silver with choil and neser? Because the Trei Tanoia Libad Rab Yehuda, there are two Tanoim who argue in Rab Yehuda. Hai Tana Libad Rab Yehuda Savar Gorir, Vai Tana Libad Rab Yehuda Savar Loy Gorir. Brisa B holds that it may happen that the choil v'neser will smooth the silver, and therefore, since it's not intentional, you don't want to smooth the silver, you just want to polish it. But Dover Shem is Chavan is Aser. But the first brisa was the Tana who held that it's highly, highly unlikely that this choil v'neser is going to smooth the silver. So even though Rabbi Yehuda holds Dover Shem is Chavan is Aser, but there, if it's highly, highly unlikely, so there's not a problem. So they're simply arguing about the probability of the choil v'neser smoothing the silver. Both go according to Rabbi Yehuda, but the first Tana Libad Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's so unlikely that it's mutter, and the second Tana says that it's possible. Therefore, Dover Shem is Chavan is Aser. So b'maya kimta, how did you explain both brises? Rabbi Yehuda, Ema Seifa. Let's go back to Brisa A. What did Brisa A say? That you're allowed to polish silver with choil v'neser because it's not muktzah, because you brought it in. That's number one. Number two, it's not going to smooth the silver, and therefore, even according to Yehuda, it's mutter. But you shouldn't rub it on your hair because there it may remove the hair. And Dover Shem is Chavan is Aser. Avupanav Yorav Raglav mutter, but you're allowed to rub it on your face, hands, and feet. Hama Aber Seir, but isn't that going to cause some of the hair to come off your face, hands, and feet? So Gemara gives three terutzim. Iba is saying b'cotton, or it's a minor who doesn't have hair on his face, hands, or feet. Or Iba is saying b'isha, or a woman. Or Iba is saying b'besaris, somebody who is sterile, so he doesn't have hair on his hands, face, or feet. So to make a long story short, we had three views what it takes to make a muktzah item non-muktzah. The Tanakama said it took a physical act to tie it together. Reb Shimon Gamliel said it needed formal attention or intention. And Rav Asi, based on two brises, says just casually using it once, Erev Shabbos, for a non-muktzah purpose is good enough. Rav Papa added that if there is no act that can be done, like bringing in earth into the house, that also takes off the muktzah, even according to the Tanakama. The Gemara then brought two brises whether you can polish silver with choil and neter. The Gemara's conclusion is both brises go alibad Reb Yehuda, the Dover Shem is Chavan is Aser, but the first brisa holds that it's so highly unlikely that this choil and neter is going to smooth the silver that even according to Reb Yehuda it's mutter. But you can't rub it in your hair because there Dover Shem is Chavan is Aser and you're going to remove hair. But you can rub it on your face, hands, and feet in case you have no hair on your face, hands, and feet. I'm going to upload the next half soon.